it seems like you have that switch, like, like for you, like when you say hard work, that I think means a lot different. It's a different thing than most people.
Sure.
I think, for me, like when I look back on my history, like, it was for me a lot instilled by my father, I remember going to work, working my ass off. My dad, being there one day when I came home and being like, you look pretty lazy out there, because he saw me working across the street and didn't think I was working that hard.
Yeah.
The kind of person that you come home with an A and he's wondering why not an A plus. Sure. I'm curious, like, where do you get that, gene from, or how do you look at that? Because I think it's easy to say, like, I just work hard, but there's something else going on there.
I think it's who you're trying to impress. Like everyone's trying to impress somebody.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the closer you can make that person you're trying to impress to who you are or who you want to be, the more under control impressing them is. And so, like, if you're trying to impress the crowd, it's tough, because they can change their mind really quickly and you can't control that. You want to, impress your parents, maybe you can control that. Maybe you have more understanding what the things are that impress them, and you can just try and hit those keys. Maybe it's your spouse. But I think if you can make it you, or what I try to do is like future me, then I know 100% of the things that will satisfy that man. And he's ruthless, but he's fair. And so a lot of it is just repetition. Is like, it's funny. I had this tweet that did kind of well, that I'm amazed how many times in my life, my response to self is, great, I'll do it again, but better. And how many times you can apply that to anything? Like, great, you learn the sales script front to back, now do it again, but better. And you can do it, write the book. You can do it for asking the girl out. You can do it for the product. You can do it for the UX design. You can do it for the email. Like, great, now do it again, but better. And I think that if you can keep doing that iteration without getting frustrated with it, and seeing the character trait that you want to develop as the output of the activity rather than the thing that you're working on, that I think is where you can get the W that no one can take away from you.
Yeah, I think that future self frame is really important, building something for the long term, like, really
you
making
are the
yourself
long-term asset.
Exactly. I mean, how do you kind of define that? Like, give us, like, for some people, like, I get what you're saying, right? But, when you're talking to yourself about a given, thing you're looking to release, and you're like, okay, would my future self be proud of this? Like, what are some of, like, the principles that your future self is judging that work off of?
Honestly, it's just level of effort. That's really it. It's just level of effort relative to the task. Now, do I do, 28 full, 3 times go-throughs on an email? No, because the reward relative to the input doesn't make sense, right? So it's like calibrating the effort that would be hard workable or 100% based on the task to something that's reasonable. Now, the reason that I was willing to put so much into the launch was, I did the math on this where I was like, okay, if I had a 5,000 person audience for a big live event, how long would I prepare for that? I'd probably prepare 2-3 days for that, because every single person there is going to tell 20 other people that this one guy just blew everyone away. And that's what I want. I think the background on your phone is Michael Jordan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in Last Dance, he had this comment that just like sent chills through my spine. And he said, there's going to be a kid in the audience who's there with his dad, and they can only afford that one ticket that one time. And they're going to make their judgment on how Michael Jordan plays on that one game. And that's why he tried to bring it every game. And I try and think of that frame. And I had that with this audience. There's so many people who are going to come who had never actually seen me live ever. And that might be the only time they ever see me live. And I was like, I have to fucking bring it. And if I would do that for 5,000 people, if I have 500,000 people, then it would be reasonable that I would prepare 100 times. I mean, if I think it's reasonable to prepare for 2 to 3 days for 5,000, then why would I not think it's reasonable to prepare 100 times for 100 times the audience? It makes sense. And so if anything, I underprepared. But it did get to a point of proficiency where I was like, I won't gain more from doing this again, right? And so it really comes down to the number of repetitions I will allow myself to do based on what I get from the activity.
In the $100 million leads exercises on your site, I was going through them a few weeks back. And you talk about the story of years ago having a group of people you were with. There was a mentor there. Yeah. You talked about this principle of setting aside, an experiment budget, like a learning budget, to, just put towards different things, different bets that you have. Some will pay off, some won't, but either way you learn. And that this was pretty instrumental early on in your career.
Huge.